Okay, I will call this Thursday, September 5th, 2019 Utility Advisory Commission meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
At this time, I will entertain any public comments. Is there anyone who'd like?
Lady, pass me the
Okay, please feel free to come up to the podium.
Your name.
Okay,
Can I get your name?
Connie Duncan.
Okay.
Okay, I've never done anything like this before, but I have concerns over the smart meters that you are proposing or going to send to the city council. Do you know how much radiation or exposure is being done with these? I have a pacemaker, and on the back of my unit, there will be 4 of meters right on my unit that will come in. I've done some checking, and back in 2010, they have figured that 1 meter puts out 8 decimals of radiation or whatever. Where a cell phone, I've had people comment, I put something on the Facebook page of Gardner, and I have been told I have no common sense, this, that, or the other, you know, and I was using a cell phone, yes, but the comment on a cell phone is like 0.000002 as opposed to what one of these meters will do. And have you checked into what it's going to do to places that have like 4 meters on? I mean, mine's right back of my back door. And will our rates go up with these? Will the smart meters be monitored energy per household? Will they know what appliances we are running, what we're not running? I've heard there's been tests done that utilities can find out if somebody has dementia, that they can find out whether they've put their tea kettle on to boil at one time and took it off, or if they've been in their refrigerator, or what they're doing. Will you be able to turn around and with the smart meters and tell us that our refrigerator is too old, it's using too much kilowatt? You know, we need to do something better. I've also read that with smart meters, they can supply data to any marketing firms, and hackers can get into them all, which would make us subject to them. So I just wanted to kind of present these facts and find out where we really stand at this, because I'm concerned about my health with 4 being on my building. And can we opt out? You know, can we say, no, we don't want it, and use the meter that we've got already? So those are my concerns, and I hope, you know, you take them into consideration or can have some answers for them. Thank you.
And with those questions and concerns, I would direct some of them over to some of the people who may have more information. Gons, you've mentioned that we have a couple of people here and who can provide us a little bit.
Thank you for coming, ma'am. I don't have all the answers, especially on the radiation level. I know that the frequency of not the actual electric meter, but the actual communication module or repeater or gateway is about 2.4 gigahertz, and the actual power consumption is less than 1 watt. As far as the actual radiation, I don't have that information, but I can find out and let you know. On the issue of opting out, we haven't actually started the implementation. This is something new, and I think Amy Foster has some information, but that's something we have not considered at this point. The other issue is, what was the other one? Now, the actual meter itself, we will be able to determine your energy consumption. We cannot tell what are you using inside. So it's only just a energy, kilowatt hours. In order to find out what kind of appliances you're using, then you will have to connect your appliance to a device that will send a signal. But that's not part of the smart meter project. What was the other concern? The rates, we did a rate study last year, and the rates we're actually for residential, the rates are going down. So the smart meter project was in the rate study, and with the smart meter project, your rates will come down 2%.
For electric.
For electric.
Water was predetermined, it will go up 3.7%, but that's not based, it's overall the smart meter project and other capital improvement projects was part of the rate study program. I think a lot of data out on smart metering, a lot of people say that their rates go up. It's not actually that their rates go up, it's that meters that are currently in there are old and they're gear driven, and so as meters age, they lose their accuracy, and so it doesn't calculate 100% of what you're actually using, especially in water. And so when people see that their usage goes up, it's because it's 100% accurate. It's a new meter, just like if we put a new mechanical meter in there that wasn't a smart meter, people could potentially see their usage go up. So which then drives up the dollar amount, but not the per rate. But the Gons is correct that electric will be going down 2% starting in January of 2020. Water's going up 3.7% in 2020.
Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry, we weren't introduced?
I'm Amy Foster, the Business Services Manager and oversee utility billing.
Okay. I don't know if now is the time to bring this up. I'm sorry, I'm kind of new to this committee and this sort of thing. But, I've had some questions too, and I've read everything that's come before me, before this meeting. I don't know if now's the chance to bring up some questions that I had myself, or if you want to hold that off.
I think it will probably be best to get the responses for Ms. Duncan's questions at this point in time, and then we will move along with the agenda as stated. And, with regards to questions or concerns that we as a commission have, I think if we bring that up in new business, I think that would be appropriate. Okay.
And so in addressing her questions, one of them was supplying the data to telemarketers. And so based on the proposal that we're looking at that hasn't been presented yet, we own that data. So yes, that we have their software, but that data belongs to us, so it's not public record. If somebody wanted data, it's the same as now. They would have to file a Kansas Open Records request and fill out the paperwork to get that if it's not the homeowner. The homeowner always has access to their own data, but for them to be able to sell that, no, they would have to go to the city, and if it's for promotional and that the city does not have to provide that information, so it would be considered private. And I know that they had, in the presentation that we have seen with the proposal, that there are secure measures in place to avoid hackers. So it would be as safe as what we provide you now through your online access, whether it's for the payment or just to view your account. And so that was in their proposal, their security measures. So. And I think God's addressed the opt-out, that we haven't wrote the program to know if that will be available or not, because of staffing and how the program works with meter readers.
Okay. I believe that resolves most of your questions, Ms. Duncan. Okay. Are there any other public comment? Seeing none, we will move along. We will go to the first item on the consent agenda. First item on the consent agenda is to have a standing approval of the minutes as written for the August 1st, 2019 meeting of the Utility Advisory Commission. Do I hear anybody entertaining a motion?
I entertain a motion.
Okay. And your motion is to,
Approve the minutes as written for the August 1st, 2019 meeting of the Utility Advisory Commission.
okay. There has been a motion made. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay. The motion was made by Colton, seconded by Taylor to approve the minutes as written of the August 1st, 2019 meeting of the Utility Advisory Commission. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. The second item on the consent agenda is to consider a recommendation to the City Council for appointment of a director on the Kansas Municipal Gas Agency's Board of Directors. Is there anyone who would like to go and approve, or anyone who'd like to, I would entertain a motion.
As soon as I can find it.
It's on the fourth page here.
This one. I nominate Matt Ponzer, Electrical Generation Manager, to be the alternate member of the term expiring August 31st, 2021.
Okay, there has been a motion made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay. The motion was made by Williams, seconded by Coleman, in order to approve the appointment of a alternative of Matt Ponzer, Electrical Generation Manager, as the alternate member for a term expiring on August 31st, 2021, to represent the city of Gardner on the Kansas Municipal Gas Agency. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Motion passes. We're moving on to new business.
Yes, you can please switch to the MDMI one. So good evening, Chairman, Commissioners. We sent the packet last week and would like to deviate instead of going through the actual staff report. I made a brief presentation that covers most of the information in the staff report. I'd like to start with a brief history of the meters in Gardner. With the advent of the automatic meter reading, known as AMR, that came about in the mid-1980s, and it was more prominently early in the 1990s as an automated way of collecting basic data reading data. Sorry. So the way it was done before, they used to just take the reading by hand and then write it down in a piece of paper and then take it. And so with the AMR, we were able to actually read it directly from the meter or have a handheld device that will collect that information. And then that information will be downloaded for billing purposes. In 2002, the city started the implementation of the AMR. The project was completed in 2006, serving 5,532 electric and 5,649 water customers. Then in the early and mid 2000s, the advanced metering infrastructure came. And it was a evolution from the actual foundation of the AMR. Right now, the city serves over 8,132 electric and 7,490 water customers. The majority of the residential water meters are over 15 years old and they're in need of replacement. If you read your packet, there is an estimate I made that in 2018, we had over 133 million gallons that were not accounted for. It's usually reported as unaccounted water use. And if you put a dollar number to that, it's about $795,000 that we lose in revenues because we cannot account for that water. Part of the problem is the meter itself. The older they get, they're mechanical meters. They are less accurate, so they lose about 7% to 8% accuracy. So that's the item that triggered this smart meter project. And then the electric, it makes sense to do the water and the electric at the same time. Some systems use the electric meter communication as a gateway or communication, so the water goes to the electric meter and that information is sent to a collector. Some systems, they go from the meter itself to the collection system or communication system. So there's a mixture. But it makes sense at that time based on what we need to do, the electric and the water meters. So what is AMI? It stands for Advanced Metering Infrastructure. And it's basically not one single technology, but it's a integration of state-of-the-art electronic digital hardware software, which combines suitable data measurements with continuously available remote communications. So there's a graph I put there to make it a lot easier to understand. We have electric meters. In this drawing we have, or diagram, we have gas meters and a water meter. So with a AMI, the meter will communicate through a communication network, which is a data transmission network. So they go to that network collects the data from different meters, and that information is gone to a server or a hosted facility that will get that information. Then using the meter data management system, the information from the meters is processed for billing purposes and other applications. Any questions?
I have a question. Are you saying that the data would be transmitted to a tower? Or how does the data?
Okay, the next slide might be able, or if I go,
Okay, well,
let me see if I can find, basically the system that we're recommending is like your photovoltaic sensors that go on top of your street light poles. That is the gateway. So you mount it on the street light and that will collect the information from the meters. And that information will go to a collector or a bigger gateway before that information is sent to the server.
you know what the range is from these collectors?
I don't have the range, but for our system, we will need about 50 plug-in collectors or gateways throughout the system. So they're the size of an orange. They're pretty small. So if you look at the street light, you have a photovoltaic sensor. So that
Photoelectric cell, you mean?
the electric cell, yeah.
Yeah.
So that will be taken and put the communication ports. So the infrastructure will be actually mounted on the existing street light poles.
Does it use its own communication system, or does it piggyback off of some other commercial?
No, it has its own
network?
communication system. It's independent.
And did you say you would need 50 for the whole city?
50, and there's a little more detail in the presentation. There are 50 main gateways and 50 repeaters. So the repeater, in case that your main gateway goes down, the repeater will take over so the information won't be lost. So what are the benefits of the AMI? Basically, you can narrow it down to three categories: system operation benefits, custom service benefits, and financial benefits. On the system operation benefits, we have reduction in meter reads. The information will come out directly from the meter. The accuracy will be greatly increased because now you don't have any, you cannot write the wrong information. It will come directly from the meter. Improve utility asset management, easier energy theft detection. The system will detect if somebody's tampering with the device or not. That's on the outside. And easier outage management. You will see in the presentation there is a application that will look at the entire system, and whenever you have an outage or a meter out of service, it will turn red. If you lose a transformer, the transformer will turn red, and that will notify the electric distribution manager so he can take some action. So this is real-time information. Right now, usually, if there is an outage, the person has to place a phone call to the distribution department. They send out a lineman. Then he goes to the address he was reported and try to troubleshoot where the problem might be. With the AMI, there is a application that you can see exactly where your outage is. So you can dispatch the crews to that location instead of doing troubleshooting in the field. Customer service benefits, early detection of meter failures, billing accuracies improve. On the water side, the new water meters with the AMI will give us an accuracy of 0.2%. Faster service restoration. Again, with the information, we can dispatch the crews for repairs in a timely manner or in a faster way, and flexibility billing cycles. On the financial benefits, we have reduced equipment and equipment maintenance cost, reduced support expenses, faster restoration, shorter outages, and improvement in inventory management. With the system, the meter will be basically the same for residential and water, residential, and electric. They will be the same meter, so we don't have to have a large inventory for those meters because they're the same. So we can reduce the inventory in the inventory. Any questions?
Well, I have several, but
Is there more to your presentation?
Yeah,
Oh,
I just want to make sure that,
so far. I
Any
have
questions
some,
on
but probably
benefits?
They might be answered in your presentation.
right. Yeah.
so if we go back to, can we go to the actual business action, the staff report? So this project was in the, is in the 2019-2020 CIP. And in June of this year, we went out and advertised on the our website, Drexel Technologies, which is a plan room, electronic plan room, and the Gardner News, a request for proposals. We had 6 companies that responded to the RFP. Landis & Gear, Honeywell, Core & Main, Nighthawk, Tantalus, and NextGrid. As part of the purchasing policy, we have to form a selection committee. The committee consisted of myself, Amy Foster, Business Service Manager, Greg Etcherson, the IT Manager, Jason Bruce, Parks and Rec Director, Bruce Baldwin, Electric Distribution Manager, Bill Andrew, Electric Meter Technician. He's here with us in case you have any question regarding the electric meters, and Steve Michael, Meter Reader Technician. Due to the information that was presented, we requested for all three companies to do a formal presentation. So we met with them between July 17th and July 22nd. A week after the presentation, the selection committee met and will review the proposal based on the criteria set in the RFP, which included meeting the city's smart meter requirements and needs, qualification, implementation plan, project schedule, scope of services, and project price. At that point, we discussed the presentations and we narrowed it down to three companies: NextGrid, Core & Main, and Landis & Gear. We additionally requested each vendor had different electric meters and water meters. So in order to compare the proposals, we told them if they can provide the same meter for water and the same electric meters, all three, so we can compare the prices. Everybody responded, provided the cost for Landis & Gear electric meters and Census water meters. We met again on August 22nd, and we had a vote, 5 votes for NextGrid, 2 votes Core & Main, and 0 votes for Landis & Gear. After additional research, the 2 Core & Main votes agree with the NextGrid recommendation, so they supported the other 5 members' recommendation. So now let's go back to the PowerPoint. Any questions?
Are you through?
Not yet.
Did you say,
Set up our PowerPoint. Come on.
you went with
Wait a minute,
NextGrid?
Dave.
Is that what you said? That was your recommendation?
Yeah, but I would like to show what NextGrid is proposing. There's an attachment in your packet that has it's a comparison of 6 companies with the cost of implementing the smart meter project, and includes the annual fee also.
And that's the annual fee to the company, no? Yeah, no, I see it.
Oh.
I don't know what happened here. Oh, there it is.
It's like paying for software or whatever. Right.
So there we go. The NextGrid proposal includes the electric AMI, which includes replacing the 8,032 electric meters. They will replace the meters with a vision meter. They will include the communication module so they can communicate with the gateway. This includes removal of the old meter, installation of the new meter. On the water AMI, we have 7,590 water meters. They will add the communication module. They will remove the existing water meters and install the new meters with the communication module. The communication infrastructure includes 50 communication gateways. On your screen, you can see on your right hand, looks like a electric cell with an antenna. That's your gateway. So the meters will be communicating with that device. And then you have a picture of what we're recommending, the Vision electric meter and the Census, they call it iPearl water meter. It also includes 4 endpoints what they were recommending that you should have 5 gateways with a hard wire. It can be Ethernet, it can be Wi-Fi, or Zigbee, what's that? Well, in some other communication. So we're looking into having 5 endpoints with fiber. So the communication between the endpoints will be a hard wire with the hosted server. It also includes the 5 repeaters, which is a backup to the gateways. Also the engineering and implementation, installation and program management and training. Any questions on the proposal from?
I have one. I thought you said you wanted the same meter for both electric and water. Did I not
No,
hear
what I meant, we want to have the same vision electric meters for the residential. The water meters will be census.
Oh, okay.
So you have the same vision electric
I got you.
meters and the same census water meters. Right now, we have a mixture of Neptune, Census, Badger. We have almost every single meter they make right now.
So if this system at an endpoint fails, because things do fail, you would just estimate the bill like you would
No, sir,
now from
you
either-
have 5, so you will rely on the other 4.
I'm sorry?
You have 5 endpoints, but
Okay.
they're redundant. So then you will have the other 4 that will collect the information.
No, but I think he's speaking like on an individual meter basis and not the collection basis.
Yeah,
So if the meter fails on your house,
Then
it's still just gonna estimate like,
you have to, estimate.
or someone goes and reads it.
you would estimate it then, right? There's no backup to this.
Yeah.
No,
There
to
is
the,
a backup, and so the meter at your house, it's actually, we would program and tell them how often we want it to actually store a read. And so the meter itself has a memory chip in it, and so it stores a historical data. And then your collector point, so the piece that goes on the streetlight, has a history data as well. And then your big collectors, your wired in, also has a storage system. So you can call back and go back and pick up those reads. And just speaking from the billing side, one of the things that I liked about NextGrid's software is that it did not create a false read. A lot of the smart meter systems out there, if we went to go get a read from it, and when I say get a read computerized, say, hey, I want to read this meter, see what's happening there, and it errors, it would automatically stick a read in there. It would tell me that it was an estimated read, but the computer system would estimate it, and I was totally against that. If we're going with this type of a system, there should be no reason for an estimation. So their system does not do that. It will pull up and tell you what your historical reads are that they have. As soon as something goes down and that is no longer reading, it sends an alert. So if something happens at the meter, there's an alert system that's sent that would be set up by staff on what we want those alerts to look like. And then we would dispatch someone out there to figure out what's happening. Is there something over it? Did somebody hit it with a lawnmower? Those kind of things. But for it to actually create an estimation, we were against that because we did not want a system out there creating an estimate that we didn't have a control over. And if we paid for a system to work, we wanted to give us actuals. That's what we're paying for, so.
Thank you, Amy.
And do each of the meters have a readout that the homeowner can?
Yes, sir, they have
We'll
a
look at-
digital LCD display.
Does it actually have an app? Because those LCD displays are pretty difficult to deal with. Or
Right
at
now-
least a portal you can plug in through the utility site and get more accurate readings or get more data or anything like that.
The NextGrid proposal, the software includes a customer, what was the name of it? Excuse me.
'Cause those LCD displays are like trying to set a VCR clock.
What is the name of the,
Yeah, and glares make them hard to read.
Well, it's not the glare, it's just the interface. They're terrible.
there is a customer interface that they can actually read the same information they're sending to the city. So you can go and read it from the display, or you can connect to the meter through
So this would be online.
through an app, and then you can see your actual readings.
Okay.
And my goal is that will link in with your current customer portal that you have now. So what we have now, where you go on and pay your bill online and you can see a 3-year history, that these all link together so that you have one customer login and one password. So that way you're not utilizing 2 different pieces to be able to get the most information off of your location.
Any other questions?
Not yet.
So now I have a sample of different apps that come with the NextGrid suite. They call it. It's like a Microsoft Office, come with a lot of applications that is included. So we have a geographic information system that tells you where your meters are located and the status of your electric system. There's the electric metering itself that tells you your information as far as demand, energy, kilowatt hours, and the status of the meter. Similar on the water, we have a similar map indicating the location of your meters, usage, and trends. Transformer management, with the software, we can connect meters to a specific transformer, and the transformer can be connected to a specific circuit. So when we get an outage, we can narrow it down to the meter, or we can go upstream and go to the actual circuit that is feeding the transformer. So that will help greatly in identifying where the outage or the problem is with electric outages. Outage management, if the meter goes out, we have a history of what meters went out, and it will track it'll keep a history of the outages on that meter. Any questions? Those apps, there's like 3 more, but I didn't want to bore you with them. So why NextGrid?
So, I have a question.
Yes, sir.
So will you use this system to determine the load on each transformer
Yes, sir.
periodically through the year, or every month, or whatever?
Well,
so
actually,
that it's not way underloaded or nearing overload?
I think the system will do more than that. You can set up your rated KVA, and when you exceed that rating, you'll get an alarm. So you will know when that transformer is being overloaded on real time
Or underloaded?
or underloaded. And that might help us distributing the different loads. Right now, it's done on really, I really don't know how we do it, but this will give us real-time information so we can manage the different loads and make different connections or disconnections throughout the distribution system. So if a transformer is carrying too much, then we can reroute the load to another transformer manually, or with the electric switches we'll be installing this year. The automated distribution switch. Any other questions?
Well, I'll hold the rest of them till you get through.
Okay, so why, it wasn't an easy decision. Each vendor has some things that were very good some were not. Out of the 6, we went ahead and on the first round, we disqualify Nighthawk because they didn't have a integrated system. They were kind of different systems that were trying to put it together. Then we took Tantalus and Honeywell. Their software was Ultismart, and the selection committee was not too impressed with that software. So those 2 were eliminated. We brought down to Landis+Gyr, Core and Main, and NextGrid. So what makes NextGrid different from the other 2? Simplicity. Their system is easy to install, operate, and manage. It's like a plug and play. When you put a meter in, it will be detected within seconds in the system. The other systems, it will take up to 24 hours to be identified in your map. So that was a plus, simplicity. The software is a suite, includes over 7 different apps. We probably need right now 5, but it's fully loaded. The other companies, they offer 2 or 3 apps, and then if you want additional, you have to pay extra. But this is one price, and you get a complete software package. Choice of meters, NextGrid will work with most meters. If next, 10 years from now, we want to replace the meters, or 20 years, because the project is a 20-year system, we can go with a different manufacturer. It can be General Electric, Landis+Gyr. We go with a different type of water meters, and the system will communicate with those meters. So there's a lot of flexibility, and it will work with the majority of meters. And the price out of the 3 shortlisted vendors, they had the lowest implementation cost, and their annual maintenance and license fee was the lowest, which was $61,000.
And how long is that price? Is that just for the first year, or is there a long-term contract for that price?
What we have is for the first year. I don't know how much would that go up or down, but I don't expect to go more than, I don't know. I couldn't answer that question. But the increase shouldn't be.
I would think it would be advantageous to have some box around that cost, because once you install the system, you're pretty much locked into it.
But we only have the cost for the first year of after the system is implemented. We haven't talked about going a 5-year agreement or anything like that.
But we'll have to, right? I mean,
We will-
we'll have to.
Yes, sir.
It would be part of the contract negotiations, and so this is the first step, is to make the recommendation of who we wanna go with, and then, start negotiations for contracts, once we select the company. And so that would be part of it, because I do know the city's contract requirements requires that, because we're talking long-term, and so those terms have to be laid out on what that plan is. And if there is an increase, to lay out what that increase is based on, and like what kind of notification we have and what kind of out we have, if we don't agree to that. So that would all come through the contract negotiations, and I do know their city contract policy requires that those prices be locked down, so.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Once it's operational, will you be able to provide reduced rate times to the residents?
The system,
For service.
they call it time of use.
Like, like between 5 or 8, whatever. If you use your appliances during that time, you'll have a reduced rate.
The system has that option, they call it time of use. Depending on the time of use, you get different rates. But the city right now don't have that type of schedule. So that's something that probably can be considered in the future.
But you would be able to determine from this
Oh,
information.
absolutely they would. And-
You could, but you need to be able to identify the effect that having any change upon rates would have upon your overall budget and
How about you?
concerns like that.
Yeah, that's,
Well, I can admit, this is one of my biggest questions, because I have lived in the city and I've dealt with these types of meters before, so I've gone through this. And I apologize if there's anything that's been discussed before as a commissioner, so if I'm not in the loop, but that was one of my big questions. Have these issues been talked about, or how we're gonna do dynamic pricing? Because we were promised rates going down. Guess what? Didn't happen. Rates went up. And dynamic pricing turned out to be kind of a disaster in the city that I was in before. So I'm a little bit skeptical about that.
so you're referring dynamic like time of use,
Yes.
depending, yeah, okay.
Can I talk
Sure.
about that just real quick? So, I think we have great contracts for our utility purchase for electricity. And so we don't have a high curtailment price. And so we don't get penalized if, as long as we're not going over and we actually over purchase. We have in our power pools, you guys have made great contracts, that we don't have that curtailment where it's a time of use and you get penalized, and that the city has to pay a higher rate for that electricity during peak season. We're consistent on what we're paying for utilities. And so the real-time use is usually used to make people scale back and use it when you're not getting close to curtailment. And because our contracts right now are so good, we're pretty much paying straight across the same amount and not paying that curtailment rate. And so the real time of use doesn't really serve the city a benefit to make our customers conserve. Anytime we can conserve, that's great, but our rates are the same because of all the contracts that we have put into place. And I say we, but the commissioners and the utility department. And so at this time, that would not benefit the city. It would be more of a workload. And so I don't see that would be coming because our contracts are pretty long term. And so the rate reductions, we're already giving those in electricity based on our previous and what our use is, and the council's already agreed to a 2% reduction for residential customers. And to pass on the actual cost more so to our commercial, because of how that was weighed out. And so in our rate study, it showed that our residential customers could come down and support the price that we're paying now. And that all comes from great contracts in purchasing power. And so that 2% is coming, guaranteed. I've already got the rate structures all worked up. But the curtailment price and those savings, I don't know that we sold that in bringing this project forward, just because of those great contracts that we have. Does that help at all? Or just confusing?
It answers the question. It'd be nice to see numbers, but I'm a numbers guy.
And also have to go through council to change the rate structure.
Yes, all rate structures are passed by ordinance.
I was like,
Do
okay.
that.
Now, but,
So,
but the system itself is capable of doing that. We'll have the
Well, of course it is.
software and the
Yeah.
meters, but We
that's
are
the
not
point of
set
these
up-
systems,
we're not set up for a time of use rate schedule.
but you can at any time.
So, could you, in the future, if you needed to, use this system for load shedding?
We don't, the capability is here, but then you will have to have the devices to do the load shedding.
Well, I know we don't need to now, but
The system is capable, have the capability of doing many
so
things.
like, if people wanted to voluntarily turn their air conditioner off because there was no one home, you could do that with this system.
The system is
potentially give
capable,
a credit.
yes, sir.
Or potentially give a credit for not using electricity at certain times as well.
Sure.
That would come back to time of use, so,
Right.
but you'd have to have that different rate
yeah.
for that time, which takes you back to this.
Are we concerned about the peak use
No, sir.
Okay.
Right now, our peak this summer was less than 40 megawatts.
20,
40.
40.
The system itself, the actual distribution system, can handle up to 110. So we're way, way below
What were
our,
the units on that?
excuse me,
What were the units?
40 megawatts.
Megawatts.
And the
Megawatts.
system has a capacity of 110. So right now, none of the transformers we have are being overloaded. I'm talking about the distribution transformers. Substation transformers, excuse me.
Will there be any cost to homeowners for the installation of these smart meters?
A cost for the installation?
So that there'll be no cost to the homeowner? correct?
Nope.
I mean,
No.
No, there will be no added fees to their bills for this project. This was all included in it's a 20-year outlay for this project, in the water, and electric budget. So 3 million for electric and 1 million for water.
so
So it's in the budget, but there's no additional service fees, installation fees, meter cost, to our citizens.
okay. And will the physical locations, the water meter still be in a pit in the front yard? Or
Yes, sir.
something and
Same
electric
place.
meter on the wall and, okay. And I just have a kind of a sidebar. Do we meter all the city locations? The swimming pool, the parks, is everything metered?
Everything in the city is metered, for water and electric, and it's billed. So the city actually has an interdepartmental billing program, and so every entity is responsible for their utilities.
Is that required by the state of Kansas?
It
or?
is not. It doesn't even have to, it has to be recorded, and so that is more because of our loss reports.
Right.
And for energy and water, so, it is not required to interdepartmental bill.
Okay, so who will do the actual maintenance on this system?
It'll be done by the electric and water divisions.
And do we have people, will we have to hire people to do that?
No,
or
sir.
you-
We have
you
enough,
people that staff
we
can
were
do
able
it?
to do with the current staff. And we'll get training on how to troubleshoot, do the installation, but it looks like a pretty straightforward process.
Will you have a reduction in personnel, like meter readers and that type of thing?
So the plan is, based on the system, depending what we need for the data portion, and then the troubleshooting in the field. We currently have 4 meter reader / technicians. So depending on what the program looks like, potentially 2 would be absorbed into the organization, into other divisions. I won't say departments, so just but divisions. So like water line maintenance, park and rec, community development. So we do not have the intention of laying people off, but absorbing them into the organization or not backfilling. Usually meter readers is a entry-level position, and so most of them move up in the organization eventually. And so as those positions become available, our department directors have already said,
So
you
you
know,
won't
that
be-
they would look at them.
You won't
So
be creating positions for
we
them.
will not be creating positions. We will be utilizing what we have
Yeah.
and then absorbing them into other entities of the city.
So it won't change the total number of employee hours?
No.
Now, for meter services, yes, it will, and they are aware of that.
Yeah, I think it's basically that it's a neutral overall in terms of the entire city, but in terms of metering and utilities, there is a possibility of an adjustment.
Right. Yes.
So.
For sure, 2
Yeah.
employees, 2 new vehicles that will be taken out of the utility building division.
Now, what about outreach and letting the consumers know about this new technology and how that's going to be employed? And I know Ms. Duncan brought up some of the safety issues. Now, I know that these RF frequencies are used every day and everywhere, and they're fairly safe, but there's very valid concerns when they're all put together in one location that might be close to you. Are we going to do sort of any looking at that, or just basing it off of scientific research that's out there?
And I've done some research. I do know we plan to bring in the organization, if possible, for the city council meeting. And I actually have spoken to a citizen and told her that I would get some information for her, see what kind of testing she can do in her home. And so we do take our citizens' concerns very seriously. I believe it was one of the reasons too that we discussed NextGrid and the mesh system, that it was less than, the mesh system seemed to be less than the mobile data entries where you have the cell phones and the data plans all over. And so we do find that to be very important, and based on any recommendations, we're happy to do any outreach that we can. And then to design a program that fits the city and what our commissioners and our city council request of us. To design that program to benefit the city as a whole.
I just think that would be, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Well, I think it would be beneficial to have a program to opt out, so a backup, so that people have justified reasons to opt out. And I think that would be an important consideration that you would include.
And so in that consideration, and since it's kind of open discussion, a lot of the research that I have done on the opt-out plan is there is a fee attached to that. And the reason is because our goal is to not have full-time meter readers, that we would have troubleshooters. And so when you start opting out, you have to figure out a way to read those meters and bill them. And so, and then you're also changing up the system. So you're now taking out smart meters and putting in a different type of meter, which then gets kind of, it's doable, but it kind of creates some headache in billing, because meters read differently, they program differently, and so you're having to train people and know what's in, I guess, your neighborhoods and where they're going. Right now, when we read meters, we're reading them based on a walking route that flows. The meter readers have designed that. And so when you start talking an opt-out plan, and not saying that that's not an option, you're sending somebody in a vehicle to somebody's yard to get a read based on billing cycle. And so right now, we currently read every day. Monday through Friday, we have 3 people out there reading. And so it changes the dynamic of the program, and that's why they've initiated a cost. And again, so I'm not sure that would be the commissioner's recommendation as well.
I pulled some information. There's almost 70 million smart meters in the United States. So I'm sure some city might have some kind of opt-out program that might be working. It's worth the research.
Oh yes, and they do, but there is a cost associated to that. The local areas around here, the majority of them are around $145 for the opt-out.
Per year.
So they pay that once, and then they pay a $60 monthly fee.
Whoa,
So they're paying
that's actually
to have
higher
a
than the
staff.
national average, I believe.
Yeah, and so and I'm not saying that that's what, I'm just saying that that's what my research has shown. And so, but again, it's the recommendation of the commission to the council. So we can do what your recommendation tells us to. That's why we have you guys.
Okay, so if someone wanted to, they would have to agree to these higher fees.
Yes.
Would they reject their choice?
That ought to discourage them, shouldn't
Well, and so that would be set, and I would say anything with fees, the city council does have that, fee setting, abilities, because it would be a rate. But for the recommendation to go with an opt-out program, I mean, recommendation comes from you guys, so that's.
Because you
what
never,
we tell
you know,
them.
it's a legitimately health reason, you know, they might need it, and they would wanna pay the fee, so.
Although, you know, with. Never mind, I recall.
Well, the cost savings are reducing manpower. I mean, that's what all business is about, reducing cost, and payroll is the highest cost typically, so. It's,
Well, there's a lot of pluses and pros to these types of systems. I mean, that's why they were invented. There's also a lot of questions for the consumer that seem to get left behind a lot of times when these systems are put into place. And it just seems that we would need a lot of recommendations to protect consumers.
Well, I mean, I think a lot of the details that we are trying to discuss, opt-outs, you know, and other concerns are items that would be brought up after we
Absolutely.
begin having a contract, begin having negotiations, and, you know, work out some of the nitty-gritty details, you know. I believe in this context, you know, when we're talking about it, it'd be, you know, great, but I don't think you can try to go and talk about, you know, giving back credits, giving, you know,
Right.
offsetting if people are willing to adjust some of their electrical use, you know, during the day, whatever the case may be. Right now, I think, you know, right now, the main point of consideration, the main deliberation that we're having right now is whether or not we should be trying to award this contract, and then, you know, beginning the work of getting into the nitty-gritty.
Agreed.
So we wouldn't put that recommendation, the opt-out in the recommendation, is what you're saying, at this time?
I believe officially we could go either way with it, you know, running in through a more personal opinion on this matter. I would just say that, you know, I think that if we're gonna try to start talking about some of the nitty gritty details, I think it can really start holding up with, you know, running condition upon this, and then trying to send it to yet another council to go put a condition, you know, review all of our conditions, put their own conditions upon it, and come back, you know, at a later date, versus trying to understand that a lot of this is going to go and be worked out, you know, in a different, you know, in a different time period. Right. So.
So any other questions?
Sorry, we kind of stopped you here at your presentation. Did you have any more of the presentation?
No, that's it. That was. I just wanted. Well, that's the reason for the commission is to have this open discussion, and I can provide a lot of what I think you know or you may need to know, but it's always good to hear your actual opinions and concerns.
Do you know how many other cities in the U.S. have gone with the NextGrid system by chance, or?
I don't have the number, but
It was in their presentation, and.
Was it? I'm sorry if I missed it.
No, it was in their presentation
Oh, okay.
to us, and I can't remember.
Or even just as a percentage of the population, or maybe by city size or something like that would be interesting to look at.
the closest to Kansas, there's 2 in Texas and 1 in New Mexico. Most of the systems on the East Coast.
Because, yeah, no, I mean, I trust that the committee that was involved with this did their due diligence when they were looking at everything, coming with these decisions. So those, I guess, aren't necessarily my questions. Maybe that was more curiosity.
but they do have the capacity to deliver the system.
Yes, sir.
And making sure you're not buying a Betamax.
Like I
use an
said
old
earlier,
reference.
the system is good for 20 years. That is the life expectancy of the system for 20 years.
Have you contacted any cities that have this?
Amy did.
Oh, good.
Yes, and so I'll just be upfront. I was one of the coordinating votes. And so I asked if I could call the references, and find other cities who purchased NextGrid, because the price difference was quite a bit. And so the systems, they were both mesh systems, so I felt like they were the 2 most comparable. And contacting their references and how excited their references were to talk about their project, the installation process, the software, their citizens' engagement with the software, excited me about this proposal, because a lot of times if I'm happy with an organization, I say, you can put me down as a reference, and if I'm excited about them, I feel like I'm a good reference for them. And the people that I talked to were very excited about this company and couldn't say enough good things about them. And when you asked questions, they weren't yes or no answers. They were in depth of what they experienced. One of the questions that I asked of them was, what do we need to know up front that you wish you would have known? What did you find in your contract that you wish you would have added? And literally got great straightforward answers, and very involved answers. And so I felt like they were a secure company, and for the price quote, and their willing and quick responses back when we did have questions, led me to believe that they would offer us a good customer service. And I'm 100% about customer service too, so I changed my vote to next grid.
No, you were one of those three? Or
I was one of those two, yes.
Oh, two.
Is there any further discussion? If not, I would entertain a motion.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I move that we recommend the city council to award a contract to Next Grid in an amount not to exceed $4 million for advanced metering infrastructure as part of the smart meter project. And that CIS number, well, you have it.
CIP EL 2002.
That one.
I second that motion.
Okay. I have a motion that was made by Williams. It was seconded by Coleman. And the motion reads to, let me make sure I get to the right words. Approve a recommendation to the city council to award a contract to Next Grid in an amount not to exceed $4 million for the advanced metering infrastructure as part of the smart meter project. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. The motion passes. Motion passes. Sorry, I can't speak right now. Okay. Is there any other business? I don't believe. Or is there any updates this
Yeah, project updates next. Go to current slide. So electric projects, the electric district, they have been very busy. We have a lot of businesses coming to Gardner. So they completed the installation of electric service for New Olathe Health Urgent Care, which is by I-35 and Gardner Road. Mid-America Bank, which is by 183rd Street. Gardner Dental, which is by, what's the nearest place? By Austin's. Willow Chase, which is a duplexes. And Phillips 66, which is by I-35 and Gardner Road. What else? Completed a relocating 400 feet of underground three-phase cable that serves the lift station at South Poplar Street, because the original installation was outside the easement. and completed the annual capability test on unit 1 and 2. So every year we have to run the units, and we need to determine what's the maximum capacity. So this year we're able to obtain 36 megawatts.
26 or 36?
26.
Okay.
And that is on-demand generation? Or
Basically, we have two LM Frame 5 gas turbines. So once a year we have to run them for 2 hours to guarantee that we can deliver X amount of megawatts.
spinning reserve or something?
Well, that's used for, in order to purchase power from the SPP, Southwest Power Pool, you need to have enough capacity. So that's 26 megawatts goes to our capacity credits.
Okay, and then is that the total capacity?
Now we have 20 from Gardner. We have an additional 20 from Dogwood. That's 46. Then we have 9 megawatts from GRDA. And
But I mean, as far as what we own on site,
26.
26, okay.
Yes.
We can deliver 26 megawatts. Any question on the electric project updates?
Is the 26 still comparable to how it's been in the past? I know.
It's been
I know
about,
these gas turbines are.
I seen it as low as 24 and as high as 28.
Okay.
So it
it's
varies.
Falling within.
So right in the middle.
Yeah, falling within a standard, standard reason. It's not a 30% drop off from prior year or anything like that.
No,
Okay.
it's within what is expected.
Okay.
Wastewater, the South Lift Station is near completion. The project was an installation of a 1 million gallons storage tank to help during high flows and heavy rainfall. So the tank is in place, the additional wells are in service. That's shown on your right hand picture. There's a picture with a overhead crane. That's the old well, and on the far left is the new well. So we have additional capacity to collect additional wastewater. And if there is too much, then we can store it and then send it to Keel Creek Wastewater Treatment Facility as the demand diminish. Water, this is the Hillsdale Water Treatment Plant expansion. So right now we sign a notice of proceed with Burns and McDonald and CAS Constructors. This week, the contractor performed additional survey work, performing percolating testing. But right now, the actual work will start October 15th. Right now, there's a problem. We have 2 ponds at Hillsdale. They're used for collecting sediments that come out of the clarifiers and media filters. So we need to clean both ponds before construction can begin. So on Tuesday, City Council approved a contract for the clean out. So it should start Monday and be completed by October 1st. Our deadline to have those ponds clean is October 15th, which is the point that construction will begin. And then on Tuesday again, City Council approves the annexation of Hillsdale. Right now, Hillsdale is owned by the city, but it's under Miami County building codes. So in order to expedite the construction of Hillsdale, City Council unanimously vote to annex Hillsdale as part of the city. So the construction will be under Gardner building codes. That will expedite the process. And could save us up to $150,000 in building permits. Now, why it was not done before, I cannot answer that. And that's all I have for this meeting.
Did you arrive at any time for this tour that we've discussed?
No, sir, I haven't done it yet.
That would actually be really helpful, especially for someone, I mean, personally, that's new to the area and would love to get a layout of everything.
Well, Commissioner Williams gave me some dates that he's available, so I just need to sit down and send
We
you
may
him.
need to review that. That's been a while.
I know. I will make sure I'll send it out tomorrow.
Okay.
And basically is, we have the wastewater treatment facility, Kill Creek, which is about 3 miles north. That will take about maybe 1 hour.
That'd be great.
Then the Hillsdale is 6 miles south in Miami County. That may take a little, with travel time, maybe an hour and a half. So if you want to do both sites, you're looking into about 2.5 hours of your time. Everything else is local, so the electric is fairly close.
We went through a lot of that when you go through Gardner U, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So basically, the same as the Gardner U tour, it will be similar.
Yeah.
So if you were there, you probably don't have to.
If
It was good.
Yeah, no, it sounds great. I mean, if it helps with your
Yeah.
scheduling, just me personally, I can, make time whenever. So
And
don't hold it up for me.
if I'm in town, the time doesn't I mean, people that are working and trying to juggle that, I'm available most any day that I'm in town. Except for doctors.
So I'll send the proposed dates and you can send
Start
me
at
your
June
feedback.
sounds good.
Yeah, give us a couple or 3 dates to pick from, maybe. See if that would work.
That's all I have.
Okay. Seeing no other business, I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second that.
Okay. Motion's been made by Coleman, seconded by Taylor. All in favor?
All right.
Motion, meeting is adjourned.